All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Caroline Broadband Advisory Committee meeting for January 2023. Happy New Year. Uh, I am Jason Jacobus, the Vice Chair, standing in for Jason Barlow, who may join us later. David, do we pass it to you for the agenda?
I can go down through the agenda.
Sure.
So on tonight's agenda, of course, we dispense with the reading of the minutes because all the meetings are recorded and available online on the county's YouTube site. Picking up on the old business from our last meeting, we'll give you an update on the railroad crossings, an update on VADI 2021. If Jason's able to make it, he's going to give us an update on Starlink, and if not, Jason,
I'm covering for him. Yeah.
Okay. And then VADI 2023 updates. So that's what we have on the agenda for this evening, sir.
Great. Well, if there aren't any objections or changes to the minute, we will proceed with the old business. So I'll let you get started, David.
All right. So first off, under old business, we always cover the railroad crossing updates. For those of you who may not be familiar with the fact that the County Board of Supervisors chose to go ahead with the permitting and preparing for construction to the railroad crossings so that they would not inhibit us from getting a VADI grant, which has to be completed on a very short timeline. In hindsight, it was a good move because it's taken us quite a while and we're still not quite there yet. I did get an update from Mr. Schiebel, who's handling the permitting processes for us today. And as of now, all the drawings have been submitted to the railroad, to CSX, and they have submitted back the right-of-ways. And currently, all the railroad crossings that we're working on, they're in the process of doing that right-of-way access permit, and it's gone back and forth between the county's attorneys and CSX's attorneys. At this point, once that's complete, we should be good to go on all of the crossings. So hopefully that'll be finished up here shortly, according to Mr. Schiebel.
David, did he give you any cost estimates?
Not as of yet. I think the fees have been paid, and and I think they required a letter from the insurance company adding CSX as a signatory on their insurance policy, and that's been done. But he did not give me updates on fees, Mr. Thomas.
Okay. Thank you.
I might be able to provide you with that information tomorrow evening, since we will see each other tomorrow evening, correct?
Yes. Yes, I was thinking we could just ask him tomorrow. That would be great.
All right. So then, if there's no other questions about the railroad crossing updates, it does sound like we're making progress. Actually, it's taken us a long time to get to this point, but it's probably a good thing because I would imagine those permits will have an expiration date. So I'm hoping that the timing is going to work out, that we would hopefully get the railroad crossing permits about the same time that we hear on the VADI 2023. So I guess it could have been bad if they went through too quick. Then they could, I guess, require you to go back through the permitting process again if there's too much of a delay.
David, would it be possible that once we have the permits that we could go ahead and do the crossing stuff ourselves so that the avenue would be there for them to cross without having to do anything additionally?
Yeah, I believe.
Putting in the pipe or whatever is necessary.
Yeah, I believe I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Well, I was just saying to Frank, that was the original plan. If we didn't have the grant, we would go ahead and do the crossing because we'll eventually have to do the crossing one way or the other.
And the cost of the crossings was not in the 2023 grant. If you remember, that goes back to some of the early COVID funds to fund that. So it is separate from the application, and I believe the board had moved to go ahead with them. And in fact, we actually used the fact that we were working to establish those crossings in our 2023 application. So they are two separate entities. Did that answer your question, Mr. Beal?
Yes, sir, Mr. Sadler. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, and we will share a different screen. All right. Let me know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. So we've started some installations in Caroline 01 for VATI 2021. As of the end of day today, there were 95 new customers, 10 on the wait list. And again, this is just about a third of the project area for 2021 that they've started working in already. So they have caught up quite a bit. At one time when I first started getting numbers, it was about 35 or 40 customers with 70 on the wait list. They're down to 10. So they're rolling in pretty quick. I wanted to go through the installation process for everyone here in the committee and also get it out on YouTube, just so people know what to expect from the installation process. So what we're looking at, and I was lucky enough to have one of our early hookup customers actually allow me to come up and snap a few pictures of the process. So that way, if you are, for example, in Caroline Project Area 02 or 03, Balti, Panola, this information would help you understand how that process works once you placed your order and you're in the queue to get installed. What you see is the installer from BreezeLine actually installing the NID on the outside of the house. You notice that behind him, closer to the front of the camera, there's some orange lines. So initially, when they do the install, they will come out, or they will have Miss Utility come out and mark prior to digging. There has been some confusion about that, but they do have, once they put in the ticket with Miss Utility has a certain amount of time to mark. If, for example, they don't mark prior to them coming out to do the construction, sometimes they will go ahead with the construction. So Miss Utility will be there. The next step, if you see right under that NID there, you see, and the NID is the box, network interface box. You see the orange conduit going up into that. So once they come out and mark with the orange lines, after that's done, then BreezeLine will come in and run that orange conduit from the connection point, which is a box out near the road, to the house. And that's what you see right there. And he's mounting the NID on the side of the house. This is the install. You see again the conduit there. What you end up with out near the road, the conduit is fairly large, probably 3/8 of an inch. Would you say, Frank? I think it's a 12 pair cable near the road.
Yes, that's probably fairly accurate.
So once that goes into optical splitters, and just know that the majority of this system is not powered. So if the electricity goes out, if it has power at just a few points along the system, the internet stays up. So hopefully that will help us with reliability. This particular connection has a single strand of fiber going down that orange conduit back to a box in the ground that actually has an optical splitter. It's not even powered. It's a passive splitter that splits the laser beam. And it goes, this single strand of fiber goes back to the 12 pair of fiber where it's combined with other signals and goes straight back through the system all the way back to King George. So the Port Royal project area is fed totally out of King George. The system that they're using is pushing all the signal from their King George location. There are no amplifiers or powered equipment between King George and this house. So it's a large cable, not as large as that conduit out near the road. If you notice just down below the box there, it's a small wire there. The diameter of that wire now is about the size of a pencil lead. That is a single strand of single mode fiber. And that actually comes off the box near the road to the house. This box is actually includes a mechanical connector that they can plug their fiber into and then plug another piece of fiber that goes into the house. The installer that was installing this actually uses the blue box there on the left as to make a fuse of the two fibers. So instead of having a mechanical connection that can fail, for example, dust, dirt gets in there, moisture could cause problems. He actually uses the end of one of the single mode fiber to the second end of the single mode fiber and fuses it so that it's a single piece of glass going all the way from the box near the road. They have some extra right there that goes around a piece in there to give them some service areas. So if something were to happen on the fiber, they could unwind some of that, get some extra fiber, and make another fuse if they had to. But just know that the mechanical fusing is eliminating another point of failure. So in this system, we have limited power requirements in the field, and we have the company working to eliminate as many of the mechanical connections as possible. So therefore, they are working hard to make it as reliable as possible. Again, there's the equipment used to fuse the fiber into the home. And this picture, it's really hard to see because the wire is so fine. But if you notice on the right side, the right edge of that picture, going back towards that NID box, you see a single piece, single strand of single mode fiber about the diameter of a pencil lead that runs across. Now, this was necessary at this location. And that's another key point to let people know if you're expecting an installation from BreezeLine. Generally speaking, all of the cable providers will try to take their equipment to the same point where either electricity or telephone goes into the house. And that's what they did here. The conduit is installed right next to the telephone NID box that you can see up higher. One point that I thought was interesting about this install was that the telephone wire that's mounted on the side of the house, the copper wire is in such bad shape, and it is so far out from the phone company that the actual wired telephone stopped working and could not be repaired. So, but again, we're working with glass now on a single strand of fiber. Quite a bit different. There's the buttoned up NID. Again, you see the conduit coming up. You see the old copper NID above it. This is the inside equipment. And I can tell you that I've spent quite a bit of time looking at this equipment. It's really nice. Calyx makes the black box to the right, which is the modem router. The white box right next to that is where the fiber comes into the house and again is fused to the last piece of jumper that goes over and plugs into the modem. So you do have a mechanical fiber connection into the modem, but other than that, from that mechanical connector straight out, it's a single piece of fiber. This particular customer got the gig up, gig down service. So that included, or they may pay extra. And again, I'm not a salesperson for BreezeLine, but if you notice on the left side there, you see a box there with I guess it's 6 sides to it. It's like almost like an octagon, but it only has 6 sides. That box provides wireless internet throughout the house. So from the modem, the black box on the right, you have a single piece of RJ45 cable that comes down and goes directly into that box. Now the technology used here allows, so when that wireless amplifier or transmitter is plugged in, it actually auto configures right to the modem. So it's all automatic. Then throughout the house, they can put these extra boxes, and because it's Wi-Fi 6, it automatically configures itself to act as a mesh network and provide wireless throughout the house.
David, is this hardware any different if the TV service is included, or is the TV service streamed from this Wi-Fi connection?
And that's a good point, Jason, that we do need to get out there. The new system that has been quoted and they're working on in Port Royal, Balti, Panola, and if we're successful, the system that they're putting in for the rest of the county at this moment does not include TV. BreezeLine is in the process of developing an IP-based TV delivery system. But for now, this customer had available to her internet and telephone.
Gotcha.
TV is expected later this year, but as you'll see later on, the quality and speed of the connection would allow her to stream via any of the online providers. It's a really good connection. So that's a close-up of the modem. It's a Calyx modem. Seems to be very well built. I don't know, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it's a solid piece of equipment. It's not a big plastic box with nothing inside. It seems to be very well made. Again, if you look at the connections across the bottom on the right, you have the mechanical connection, which is the fiber coming into the home. So this is fiber all the way inside the home. It's no box on the outside that converts it over to coax. You got the Ethernet that goes out to the Wi-Fi, and you have power. Now, when we were done with the install, the installer says, hey, let's test your internet. This is what we got. We got 385 down, or 353 down, 334 up, with a 37.52 millisecond ping time, which is a long ping time. Now, he said that it takes about an hour for the system to finish adjusting itself and changing settings to optimize that, but that it would improve. And I've heard Comcast and different providers say this in the past, but I'm not so sure that I always took it for gospel. But in this situation, after about an hour, the ping times dropped to 3 milliseconds with only 2 milliseconds of jitter, and a download speed of 570, upload speed of 557.4. Now, they had the gigabit service, but again, this is over Wi-Fi. So, I mean, that's an extremely, the ping time being 3 milliseconds, the jitter being 2, and the upload and download both being in excess of 550. That's an amazing connection. Talked to the same people that got installed right here that you're looking at about a week or two later, and they're extremely happy. Again, copper could not deliver them a telephone where they're at, but yet fiber's giving them a broadband connection that they can have telephone, they can stream TV, internet, whatever they needed to go, right over that same connection. So it's pretty amazing. All right. Are there any?
David, I have one question.
All right.
It's good for the highly technical to understand the numbers you just put out. In terms of the average citizen that may or may not know what that means, how long would it take for me to download a 2-hour movie? Is that minutes, seconds? Or is that something we can check and measure so we can give folks an idea?
Probably at this speed, I would say you'd be looking at 45 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds, probably.
To download a 2-hour movie.
Yes. And that's, Mr. Beal and I have had long conversations about this. You know, at what point, once you get the internet fast like this, it has less time to bog down. So if you're downloading a 2-hour movie that takes 45 seconds, you know, you're not keeping the system tied up for 30 minutes while you're downloading this movie and loading the system up. You just load it up, get your picture, and then you're back off, which helps, helps deal with congestion in the network long term.
And that speed is more than adequate for if you wanted to watch a movie in 4K. That speed is more than adequate to handle the demands of 4K. As Netflix, Amazon Prime, and several of the other are, broadcasting in 4K. And as long as you have a 4K capable television or computer, you can pull 4K quality with internet speeds like that. That's more than adequate.
And that's actually live streaming versus a download, which is a great number to say. I'm just looking for something to be a comparison.
Yes.
If I've got Verizon DSL, I don't know how long it would take me to download a 2-hour movie because I never sit there and wait for it. So it takes that long. 45 seconds is, to me, astounding.
Yeah, and with this service, I have a similar download speed, nowhere near that upload speed through Comcast at my house, and I can stream 4 4K streams at the same time without any issues. So I don't think there's really not going to be a lot that you can't do. Just to also put it into comparison is, the county has several hundred employees on the internet all the time. We have a gigabit connection that never goes above 20 to 30% utilization. And we're running a business with 300 people doing a lot of downloads simultaneous. And we never use probably a fifth of this right here on average. So this is more than enough to run a business. The really good thing about it too is that it's symmetrical. So it is 557 up, 570 down. Whereas with my Comcast connection here, I probably have 800 down, but only 20 up, or 20 or 30 up. So when those two numbers match, that's definitely an advantage, especially if you were to have a business that needed to have web servers or servers that were sharing out files. You could do that with no issues with that kind of upload speed. All right. Is there any other questions or comments? Again, I'd like to thank the unnamed person that invited us to come to the house and watch the installation. We had talked with BreezeLine to try to get set up with what they call a friendly. They try to connect people about 30 days before they start rolling it out. But because of the supply chain issues and all that they had getting parts and equipment, there were no really friendly installations. When they started, when it was construction was complete, it was tested and turned over. Tech Ops came in and tested it, certified it, and immediately it went to sales. So they started hooking up customers right away. Again, a lot of people say, wow, 95 customers, that's all you've got so far. Just keep in mind that that's 95 people that had no other options. And to them, it's making a world of difference. When I left here, the customer was so excited to have internet. And I think I was just as excited as she was to see that she got internet, because this, a lot of hard work went into getting this there. You guys, the Board of Supervisors, everybody came together as a team to make this happen. And I think we all should be excited that it's finally coming to fruition. And if we're successful in the next month or so, hopefully we'll be able to bring it to a lot more people.
David, just one thing of interest I just looked up. A gigabit connection is equal to about 20,000 56K modem connections. If that puts it into perspective, if anybody remembers dial-up.
Wow.
20,000 modem connections?
That's what I just looked up, yes.
How many DSL connections, Frank?
Well, if you figure the average DSL connection is probably, well, probably maybe 2 megabits per second.
Wow.
I don't know. I'd have to do some more research, but probably I would say at least several thousand.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit different. And anybody that's watching tonight or joins us, just know that Verizon is kind of in the process and has been for several years now of kind of abandoning the DSL service. I think they're not signing anyone else up new. There's no more DSL new customers being hooked up.
Yeah.
And
it's frozen here in the Bowling Green area because I actually tried to have one moved and they said, no, we don't have any more connections. And even moving it is disconnect one, and once you disconnect one, you're kind of lost because the wait list is still there with no more connections. But back to Frank's thing with the modem, when I plugged my first modem in Caroline County in 1987, it didn't work because it was set to tone and the county was still on pulse, which meant you had the rotary dial versus the push button tone dial. That's how far we've come. It's amazing.
so Mr. Beal at one time had a bunch of 56K modems. Just to give the group a little perspective there, when I first started working as a contractor to the county, Mr. Beal and I worked together to maintain a 2 56K modem box that combined those 2 56 and gave you about 100 actually connection, and that's what the entire county worked off of. And now we're running off gig up, gig down. So things have come a long ways in a few years. But I could, the 28.8 modems, Frank, when we went to 56.6, it's like, wow, this is so fast. We'll never need anything quicker. All right. Anything else?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to add another one, the history stories, but we need to stay in the modern times. So, go right ahead.
All right. See if I can get this set back up the way it was. All right, so that's the updates on VATI 2021. Jason Jacobus, since you're filling in for Jason Barlow, did you want to update the group on Starlink?
Yeah, screen share is disabled, but I don't have to share the screen. The only screen I was going to share would be the Starlink order map, where most of the eastern United States from Kansas going east is on a wait list for Starlink.
You can share that screen now if you want.
All right.
Jason.
Oh, you got to stop your share. Let me pop this out. And okay, is this seen now?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah, and just bringing this up because some people are in my area that I know personally are having trouble with their hotspot programs through their wireless providers. You go to the Meadow of N Park and you see T-Mobile offering home internet 5G packages, which I don't know if it's available per address or whatever, but these services say they have the home internet, but then when it comes down to it, they don't support it in particular areas of Caroline. So it's unfortunate, but Starlink doesn't have that problem. But the problem that Starlink does have is that it's still not available. So not available for anywhere in Virginia besides the Eastern Shore, and even that looks a very small area. So very unfortunate for everyone. They do offer that RV service, which is more expensive and has a deep prioritization. So if anyone is really wanting Starlink, they can get it right now, but it comes at some drawbacks. There are people selling Generation 2 Starlink systems on eBay, but they're over $1,000, so that's not optimal as well. While we wait to hear more from Vatty, it's just the unfortunate reality that we're living in. One final note is that SpaceX is launching more satellites. I think the average for 2023 is a launch every 4 days, which is pretty impressive for a satellite launching company. So hopefully the availability will increase here in 2023. So that's all I have on that. I'm going to stop the share and we can move on unless there's any questions.
So the availability, and again, I was on that wait list at one time, Jason, and I know how frustrating it can get because I watched the numbers move from 21 to 22, and now it's up to 23. It moved several times before I ever got my dish. So, is SpaceX saying anything about when in 2023 they look to expand, or do they have any kind of time frame?
I don't know. I think there's even some mystery to that because there's a Generation 3 satellite or Generation 2 satellite, and maybe Jason Barlow could speak more to this, but that Generation 2 satellite is supposed to improve satellite-to-satellite communications, but apparently they're still sending up the previous version. So there's, what's the plan with all of this? I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah, I've actually spent time talking to a SpaceX representative, and so they're extremely vague and they won't really give you any time frames. But like Jason alluded to as well, the Bowling Green area was opened up for a little bit of time for a limited number of people. So there were some people in Caroline that did manage to get those, and they do appear to be working. And also you have the RV package, which from what I understand pretty much ships right away if you order that. So
it just comes with those higher fees and a deep prioritization. So I mean, maybe that's not a problem for our area, but just not optimal considering.
Yeah, the people I know that have used the excuse me, the people I know that have used the RV have not experienced anything in the deep prioritization that I know of around this area.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that the RV package had a higher priority or no theoretical limits, and it also gives you the option to call and put the account on hold. I think the cost is $130 per month for RV and $110 for standard. But it allows you to call in, for example, if you had a seasonal home on the river that you wanted to put internet in for the summer, you could install Starlink, put it on hold through the winter, and then turn it back on, for the summer. So the two packages are different, but our resident Starlink expert just came into the building.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me?
Yep. I know you probably missed the first part of the conversations that we were having, but Jason Jacobus showed us the map from Starlink showing that our entire area, several states in all directions, except for east, are all on wait lists. So.
Right. And I heard you guys talking about the data caps and things like that. So as of right now, Starlink still has that 1 terabyte data cap, no matter what plan that you're on. And with that, after you pass the 1 terabyte, you are deprioritized. I can say last month I streamed YouTube TV for the entire month, and especially over the holidays, we used it more because that's our only TV option that we utilize. And we were still under, we were right around 500 gigabytes. So I feel like the data is pretty good. We also game on it, things like that. And we also hold these type of meetings, and I work from at home on it. So I think the data caps are good. And I have yet to be deprioritized at this point, and things appear to be working as expected.
Hey, Jason, when we spoke earlier, you'd mentioned that there were some speed issues, but that was likely because of a firmware upgrade to the modem.
Yeah, so the latest thing that I've heard recently was, and I experienced it last night, I was only running about 30 megs down, and saw some buffering on a couple videos. And a lot of people are attributing that back to the latest firmware that was shipped out. It's not guaranteed that that's what it was, but that's what the current thought is around that.
The one point that I would add is that if you're in a bind and you need an internet connection to hold you over until something else comes along, the good thing about Starlink is that you buy the equipment, there's no long-term contract, so you can use it for 6 months, and if you don't need it anymore, you can stop using it, and according to Jason Jacobus, maybe even resell the equipment at a profit. I'm not sure, but it is again. This committee has viewed that from the beginning as kind of an intermediary service,
a stopgap.
Yeah, a stopgap between.
Temporary.
Yeah. So
and I can speak firsthand from like the AT&T hotspot that I currently have here at my house was actually shut off. We also had one at the church. They were shut off. A lot of those are being turned off right now for the hotspots. So I had to figure out a workaround with that and get a different AT&T hotspot. But the Starlink has been tried and true where it's not being shut off, deprioritized. So again, I think that is a very good stopgap until hopefully we hear word back about the VATI grant.
And according to Zoom, your connection through Zoom and the quality of your connection right now is 4 or 5 bars. So it seems like it's working extremely well. Are there any questions from anybody about Starlink? All right, I'm going to reshare the agenda since we're getting towards the bottom of it. All right, so the next item under old business is the VATI 2023 update. And believe me, according to the DHCD website, the anticipated awards were the end of December of 2022. And so they could come at any day now, though we're getting indication, like Mr. Thomas had mentioned earlier, it could be as late as March before we hear anything, but their site still says end of December 2023. So myself and Jason Barlow and probably several other members of this committee kind of wear out the DHCD website, seeing if anything has been announced. But up until now, there's been no announcement from the state. So it's not bad news. It's just not quite as quick as we would hope that it would have been, because we're raring to go, and we've got partners and providers that are raring to get started. So In fact, Breezeline is making some moves to try to get stuff lined up and be ready to roll once that announcement is made. So, and I'm sure Verizon is doing the same thing. Again, just in case you're not up to speed, east of 95 would be Breezeline. West of 95, unserved locations that aren't currently served by Comcast would be Verizon. Now, Verizon Fios, we mentioned that the current connections in VATI 2021 do not contain video, and that our project area was quoted out without video. And that's on the Breezeline side. The product that would be offered west of 95 would be Verizon Fios, which does include video, phone, and internet as well. The big difference is the technology used by Breezeline has a maximum of 10 gigabits per second. The fastest connection you can buy is 1 gigabit, but the technology will support 10 gig symmetrical, whereas Fios will only support up to a gig. So the technology is newer that Breezeline is offering. However, right now they do not offer TV, which doesn't really cause a problem because the VATI program itself really is about internet connectivity, more or less. If you get TV, that's just an added bonus, but their concern now is just trying to get internet to all locations. So as of right now, we have not heard anything on VATI 2023. Our applications are in and strong, so we remain hopeful. Hopefully, next month or the next couple months, we'll come into one of these meetings with a grin on our face making an announcement. But as of right now, we still have not heard.
David, do you foresee us, if we hear back about the grant, calling a meeting to at least update the public on that once the announcement is made and not having to wait over for a month or what have you?
Yeah, so once the announcements are made, if Carolina is successful, they would release a press release. We would also put it on the county's website. And then also, yes, we would have a special meeting. So it would not necessarily be, a month ahead, but before you would hear from it. So the word will get out there. I'm just remain hopeful at this time that it happens sooner rather than later, because once it starts, I think it's around 4,700 homes that we would be expanding to. So it's a large project. And I can tell you that VATI 2023 is probably closer to 5. These numbers are just estimates, but around 500 homes. And managing that project for me was interesting. Learned a lot. And I think Breezeline learned a lot about that project as well, because in our county, we had 500. It was a 4-county project. And so between the 4 counties, they put in right many, but this project would still be much, much larger. So it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of oversight, a lot of reporting. The state continues to change the reporting requirements back based on some of the money is funded through state funds, some of it's through federal funds. And so they're trying to line up the reporting to satisfy the reporting requirements of both. So they're still in the process of adjusting the reporting requirements, even though as far as the state is concerned, VATI 2021 for us is very close. And since I brought that up, I meant to update the group that on VATI 2021, so we have that broken into 3 project areas. Port Royal is complete. It's being sold. We have Caroline 02, which is Panola, and Caroline 03, which is the Balti area. Both of those projects, the fiber in both of them is completely been fused. All the fusing is done completely through the system. and it's ready to go. The only fusing left is the actual optical splitters. That system over there is a little different. It's not being fed from King George. It'll be fed from Bowling Green. So it does take 2 or 3, what they call, it's a Kalex unit, E32s, I believe they are, that require power. So one of the holdups has been power, getting power to those locations, which I believe has been accomplished. We're just short like 1 meter now. So once REC is able to get that last meter in, the Kalex units were supposed to be in the field and set up and fused by the end of the day today. Within the next 3 weeks, that will be completed, tested, turned. Tech Ops will come out, certify that system, and it'll be turned over to sales. Once it's turned over to sales, their team comes out and canvasses the area and will knock on doors or hang door tags. We'll get the word out once it's released as well as we can through the county website. And then again, if it's 3 weeks, we will know probably right around the next meeting whether that's been released or not. So the main thing is, keep an eye out. If you get a door hanger, you probably want to go ahead and sign up. Being in IT in the county in a rural area for so long, I always told people, sign up when they come to your door. If you don't, it may cost you a lot more once they're out of the area and they have to come back. They charge for underground and things like that. The difference is that we worked really hard with VATI 2021 as well as VATI 2023 to negotiate the fact that if your address is in that VATI 2021 project, the address is marked in a database, and even down the road, you should still get the same installation, at a normal cost instead of having to pay by the foot to have fiber buried. So we hope to try to ease the pain on that a little bit. The other thing is that Breezeline has committed from the beginning that they're not going to pass homes without offering a service. I mean, that's good business practice. Why would you pass a paying customer? Already in the 3 project areas, at last count, I think they were up to 40 homes that weren't listed in the project area, but for example, new construction, or they go through a road that they hadn't initially planned to. But if they're passing those homes, they're going to offer them to them as well right away. So just keep an eye out, watch for the door tags. And when you get that, you want to call. If you're in project area 2, Panola, or project area 3, Balti, and you call before it's released, before Tech Ops is finished and it's released to sales, I tell everybody it ends up being a very frustrating call because Breezeline, like all the other major providers, they live off of their database of addresses. So if you call in to place an order for an address that hasn't been released to sales yet, it gets very confusing and frustrating. So if I lived in those 2 areas, I would be watching for a door tag. And then as soon as you get that door tag, make the call. Or if you see Broadband Advisory Committee meetings talk about that it's been released, then that would be the time to call. But if you call too early, you'll get frustrated. All right. I think that does it for VATI 2023 and 2022 under new business. I don't see any new business. So Jason Barlow, are you taking back over the meeting, or is Jason Jacobus going to finish this up?
Jacobus will finish it up if that's okay.
I make a motion to adjourn if there's no further. No, I'm sorry. Finish with old business. Is there any new business?
No new business. Let's look at next month.
Yeah, set a date for the next meeting. Yes.
So we normally go what, the second
second Monday in the month. So the 13th would be the next date.
Yep. So that would be February the 13th at 7 p.m. would be our next meeting. We'll send out invites to everyone. And again, we'll update the committee as well as the county website if we hear anything prior to that. But just know that I appreciate everyone's hard work. It's been a lot of hard work to get us to this point. But we are actually hooking up customers in 2021 and hopefully a lot more work ahead. I guess a motion to adjourn would be appropriate at this point.
Yeah, so now we'll make a motion to adjourn with no further business.
Second it.
All
I'll
in
second
favor?
it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Happy New Year. See you later.
Take care.